The second most important record in Hellcat history, in my personal opinion, is from 1998. It is Dropkick Murphys' Do or Die. Okay, so Dropkick Murphys' Do or Die. In my personal opinion, it's their best album. It started two careers simultaneously without even realizing it, because when Mike McLogan left the band, he eventually started the Street Dogs, which is a band that I personally would rather listen to than the Dropkick Murphys most of the time, because I like that more blue-collar rock and roll sound than I do the Celtic stuff. And I'm Irish, so like the Irish stuff is great. I love it. I love Flogging Molly. I love all that stuff. But Do or Die, think about what that set off, dude. Think about the things that we've got because of that record. I don't think Flogging Molly would be as big as they were if it wasn't for that record. I don't think that we would have bands like what was that Scottish band? The Real McKenzies wouldn't be as big as they were if it wasn't for Dropkick Murphys, because they were the first punk band to really have a platform and have like bagpipe stuff and be Irish and be from Boston. Like, that was to that degree. That stuff existed before then, but it didn't have that kind of platform. And then they took, because they're good dudes, bro. So they took these other bands on the road with them, and they got a lot of people exposure. Then you have stuff like Boston to Berkeley, where you have Rancid and Dropkick touring together. I mean, dude, even the fact that we got Al Barr from the Bruisers to sing for them, and we got a bunch of classic records with him, like, that wouldn't have happened without this record. And this record is a banger of a record. From front to back, it is awesome. There's not a bad song on it, and I think the production's really good. And it introduced somebody like me to the world of Oi music, and it let me understand that there's a difference between that and punk. Because up until then, I really didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts on Dropkick Murphys' Do or Die? I know you prefer Blackout as like just the Dropkick release.
Yeah. So now we talked about this on our 98 one, where it's like, this one might be the one that I would pick as even though I have just so much extreme bias towards Blackout, just because it's just, it just when I got it. Plenty of the classic songs also set the template. And what this did, and what I mean is lyrically as well, because my biggest thing politically that has held in my whole life is honestly labor rights. Like, that's my one issue that to me, it's the most accessible. I can talk about with you, with someone else, a poor person. It's a very accessible issue. I don't know that exists necessarily among young punk rockers without this album, without the Dropkick Murphys making that like their tent pole kind of thing. Because a lot of other political bands pick a lot of other stuff, and I'm not like downgrading or saying one thing is more important than the other, but they had a specific lane, which the cover of this album sort of speaks to that. Many of the songs on it, and it kind of became a thing, like, the way, say, like Goldfinger, like animal rights is kind of their thing or whatever. Different bands have different causes that they champion, and I was like, there wasn't this in all of culture. There's just not a lot of talk about that as a political issue, unless it's like something literally to get votes in the moment. And I think that concept of working class, they really did a lot to really get that within punk rock, and maybe like, well, what is it that we represent in punk? And I think working class really is the common thread of like, what type of music is punk for? It's work. And we talk about it does come from the suburbs a lot, but it's also very much working class music at its soul.
Back when this came out, I listened to this, and then I wanted to hear more bands like this, so I started listening to them. I just didn't unnecessarily differentiate the two, but working class stuff was in music, in punk rock. It was just in a different segment of it. But they got the platform, which then let other bands get some success, and it became something that is now just kind of in punk rock music. Like, you get stuff like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones later albums, anything Street Dog stuff. You got Avoid One Thing, which is another member of the Boss Tones, oddly enough. You've got True Intentions from Houston, which has got members of the Street Dogs in it. I mean, there's so many this record has done so much, man. There's little bitty spider webs of connectivity from this record all the way from Boston to Houston, Houston to California. It's pretty insane, man. And I do like your wording, the template. It set a template for that kind of music, and I do believe it opened a lot of doors for a lot of because a lot of Oi guys, they don't necessarily care for punk stuff too much. They're more into like a rock and roll sound than a street punk sound. And I think that's where it starts to veer off different. If you listen to like Conservative Military Image, like even when they were playing live, he's like, man, punk rock, I don't like punk rock. We don't play punk. And I was thinking to myself, like, if you let somebody hear this and say, what kind of music is it? They would tell you punk rock. So, and I mean, he was being a little cheeky, right? but there is a difference there, and it's hard to distinguish sometimes. But I think it's really cool that this album came out and helped give that specific sound a place to be and an audience that might not have gotten it. And I think that's really cool. And yes, the lyrical content was, I come from a very working class family or mother. My mom, my dad was never around. My mom worked very hard physical labor jobs as a young woman. And I'll start crying talking about it, bro. My mom, I was just at her house a few minutes ago helping her with some things, and she couldn't even walk up the stairs because her leg won't bend because of all the years that she spent getting in and out of a big giant step van. She's only 5 foot and half an inch tall. So like, getting up in this big giant Frito-Lay truck for 20 years and then a Lance Foods truck for 15 more, that kind of music really resonates with me. And Dropkick Murphys, I heard them and it was like, I remember riding a Metro bus. Let's see, where was I at? I was going, if you're not from Houston, you won't understand what I'm saying. So I was riding from just outside the city to inside the city to go to work. And I remember I have this very clear memory of having the Do or Die record. It had been come up missing, and I didn't know where it was. And this is a couple years after the album came out. I think this was this is probably about 2005. So I was an adult at this point. I didn't know where my CD was, but I had like a burned copy of it. I got off the bus. I don't know why I'm telling you this right now. It just popped in my head. I got off the bus. It was because it connects number 3 and number 2 together. I got off the bus to go in this record store. That's what it was. I was going to the record store after work, and I had to ride the bus to get there. And it was this big, giant record store. And I walked in, and I was like, hey, do you guys have punk stuff? They're like, yeah. And they showed me where it was at, and I'm looking, and I find Dropkick Murphys. I'm walking down the aisle, and they have this little bitty section. It says new releases, and then it said, like, rock, metal, pop, rap, and then over here it's got like one little row that says punk, and it's got like 3 new albums. And one of the albums was that Unseen record, The State of Discontent. And I used to live in South Houston, and I was like, what is this, man? And I didn't know that they were putting that album out. So I got it, and dude, I'm telling you, man, I wore that album out. Anyways, Dropkick Murphys Do or Die from 1998, one of the best records ever, and I think it's a very important record for the success of Hellcat Records because it came out really early on in that label's life, and it could have absolutely helped them. It probably did help keep that label around, I would think.
Well, think about it. Like Dropkick Murphys, as you're saying, like what a big punk band they are. Of any band that's ever been considered or categorized as punk that like maybe never made it quite to like TRL, they are definitely the biggest band. Like I think they were probably bigger than Rancid ever got. They're probably, even though Rancid actually did reach those heights, they're bigger than everyone that's not the Green Day, Offspring, like that category. Anyway, like anything that's not that category, they're definitely the biggest band. And because like by the time they left Hellcat, right, in 2006, major labels had kind of died. So yeah, I always say, like, say what you want about Dropkick, they're a Hellcat band. They still tour with Hellcat. That is a Hellcat band. They're very much, you can say they're not a punk band, but you know what? They are a Hellcat band.
They're still a skinhead band. They're an oi band. And I think that there's no street punk stuff in a Scorsese film. So, I mean, like, say what you want, dudes. When I heard that in that movie, a lot of people were like gatekeepy about it. I was stoked, dude. I was so freaking excited. Oh, you were gatekeepy?
Not because like the scenes are awesome, and like I hate that song "Shipping Up to Boston," just straight up.
Oh, I love that song.
And it is because like that just, and it is gatekeepy because that was everyone's Dropkick Murphys. I'm like, no, they have all this other cool stuff, and I didn't like how it got reduced. I felt like to that and the stupid Red Sox, and just not only because I hate the Red Sox,
I hate the Boston Red Sox,
but also it's like that was what Dropkick Murphys were to like the public, and I was like, no, they're a really cool band with all these like great songs, and I kind of got annoyed with that like very much.
I don't want to be a super hypocrite here and act like I'm not gatekeepery on things, because I absolutely am, and I think it's hilarious that people get so mad about it. But for some reason, when I heard that song, I was so proud of them. I was like, man, this has got to feel amazing, because that song really did like that changed a lot of stuff for punk rock, man. Like, I mean, think about what that song really did, dude. Like, it got big, bro. Like, it's still a pretty big song. I wonder how many listens it's got on Spotify. You think it's got 500 million yet? Nah, no way.
It's up there. I don't really know this scale.
It's got let's say 10 million. I wonder if it's got 10 million. 500 million. That's a lot. Let's see. Holy crap! I was closer than I thought. 274 million streams. It's closer to 500 million than it is 10 million. Dude, I am absolutely shocked right now.
Yeah, that's what you do, man. You pray to your Brady statue, and you go on the way to Fenway, and you pop in that song, and that's what you do every day.
I mean, you know, it is what it is.
It definitely leads in me being obnoxious at sporting events, like putting my fist in the air when they do the part, because they play it. They don't have to be in Boston. They play it at like every sporting event. That song gets played.
I would imagine they play it a lot. It's funny too, because that album, I mean, that song was so many years after. Dude, that was a full almost 8 years after that other album, man. That's a whole different band.
That's like a culmination of what started there with what you talked about.
Right. So crazy, man. But yeah, Do or Die is a fantastic record that I have a lot of love for.